Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Crystal and we're making cooking great again. And today I thought I'd bring you along with me. I'm going to actually do some canning today. I'm going to do 2 water bath canning recipes and 1 pressure canning recipe. So the first recipe that I'm going to work on is actually clover jelly. And I don't know where you are, what part of the country or world you are, but right now here in Texas, we have the clover growing in nicely. The bees are out pollinating on them. And I was able to pick 2 cups of clover that I did steep in boiled water. So that way I ended up with my 4 cups of needed clover juice so that I can make the jelly. And I've made this a couple of times. It almost tastes like honey. So, and the clover grows for free. So, I mean, it's essentially almost free if it wasn't for the cost of the sugar and pectin. But I would definitely recommend this. It's a really good recipe. It's really delicious. And again, like I said, it tastes like a honey. The second water bath canning recipe I'm going to do is some grape jelly. I do like to make that, and we have been out of grape jelly. So grape jelly and strawberry jam are my favorites. And so I just wanted to get some more grape jelly on the shelf. So I'm just going to do a small batch of that. And then the pressure canning recipe I'm going to do is going to be mushrooms. I am out of mushrooms on my shelf canned, and so they were on a pretty good sale. So I did buy probably about 4 or 5 pounds of mushrooms, so I'm going to get those pressure canned. We're going to do the water bath recipes first. They take a lot less time than the pressure canning recipe, and I'll just walk you through it and show you how easy this is. So if you've been scared to start or to try or to do this, please don't wait any longer. Give it a try. You'll end up liking it. I love doing it. So now for the clover jelly, is just one of my written recipes that I did research on and pulled up to make it. And with any jelly, you're going to start with 4 cups of your juice, which is what we made whenever we picked the clovers and steeped them. I'll put a picture in here to share with you. It smells so good. But we're going to need 4 cups of this juice to start with. We should be right at about 4 because this is a quart. Perfect. So you can see we have 4 cups of juice here. We're going to put it in a heavy stainless steel pot. Right, and I'll save this for when we do the grape next. And now we're going to need for this recipe 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and you do want to use canned lemon juice instead of fresh because of the acidity, which is important for making it safe for water bath canning it. And so we're going to do 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I'm just using this organic lemon juice that I grabbed at Costco. That was a little much. Do less on that one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring this over to the stove, and we're going to bring this to a boil, and then it will boil. We want it to hard boil for 1 minute. Then we're going to add our pectin, which I do have measured out. Now I buy pectin in bulk like this. I get this on Amazon. But you can buy the single packs that you can use, like the ball pectin, and you can get those usually at any grocer, Walmart, Kroger, wherever you have. But I did measure out my pectin ahead of time for a packet's worth of it. Almost 4 tablespoons, not quite, but that's what we're going to use. And then it's going to call for 4 cups of sugar. So we'll measure out our sugar whenever it's time to add that into a bowl. So that way we can pour that all in at one time. So right now what we're going to do is go ahead and get this over onto the stove and get this boiling, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get this turned on high, and we're going to get our juice up to a boil on the stove. You can see that's as high as I get it on here. These are my front burners, which are my hotter burners. And I'm actually going to use my pressure canner as a water bath canner for canning the jellies today. And I'm going to do both recipes of jelly before I do the canning because I can fit all the jars in one batch. So that way we can process them at one time. And then once that's done, then I'll get everything ready to do the pressure canning for the mushrooms. So I'll bring you back once we get this to a boil and we do our next step. Okay, you can see that we're coming to a boil here. So we're going to go ahead and get ready to add our pectin. And again, I do have that measured out and ready to add in. So that way we can stir that in. I'm going to use a wooden spoon for that. Now once we add the pectin, we're going to bring this to boil for 1 minute. I'm going to go ahead and get the pectin added in and give that a stir. And I'm going to can these in half pints along with the grape jelly. And they're really small batches, and we don't use a lot at once. And it's easier just doing them in half pints. And then I'll do the mushrooms in pints. Alright, so I think we've stirred our pectin in pretty good. We'll let that come to a boil again. And then we'll get our sugar added, which I did go ahead and measure out my 4 cups of sugar that we'll need for the recipe. And I'll bring you back once this comes to another boil and we're ready to add the sugar. Okay, this is boiled for 1 minute. Now we're going to go ahead and add our 4 cups of sugar while stirring. We're going to bring this to a boil, and then we want it to be a boil we can't stir down. And then we'll let it boil for 1 minute. Once that's done, then we're ready to go ahead and add it to our jars, which I do have washed and cleaned and ready for canning that. And I'm also, like I said, going to use my pressure canner to water bath can, but I'm going to do both recipes at the same time because they'll can at the same rate. So I'll go ahead and get that ready too. If you've never used your pressure canner to water bath can, it's really easy to convert it. I have the Presto 23 quart pressure canner, and this is the pressure canner here. You can see, to convert it to water bath canning, you're just going to remove this right here. See the little plug in there? That's usually, it captures it to keep it pressured in. We're just going to remove that little piece, and then we'll fill it with water and a little bit of vinegar, and then we'll be able to use that for pressure or for water bath canning our jellies. I don't know if you can see this, kind of give you a closer view. Now we're just waiting on this to come to a boil. It smells amazing. But once this comes to a boil and we can't stir it down, we'll set a timer for 1 minute, and then that'll be ready. So this is starting to come to a boil again. I'm just going to give it a stir and see where we are. Okay, so it's still not at the point yet that we want it at, but it is starting to get there. And while that continues to boil, I was just going to show you, I've filled the pressure canner with about, I would say about 12 cups of water for the water bath canning. And I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. And we add that in because it helps with the deposits from the water on the outside of your jars so they don't get cloudy. No other purpose than that. And then once we get this recipe done and we start the grape recipe, then I'll go ahead and start getting these, getting this warmed up once I get these filled and start the grape recipe going. So we're just waiting on these to get, this to get to that point where we can't stir away the boil. We're not quite there yet. You can see where we are in the process if the heat's not in your way, just so you can see. But we will want to constantly stir once we get to that point and set a timer for 1 minute. And you can see it's starting to really bubble pretty good. But we're still able to stir it away. It looks like we might be at that point now. And be careful, especially if you do a larger batch, because the splatter from this boiling is very hot. So do be careful. Try not to get it on your skin. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and set my timer for 1 minute while it's doing this hard boil. And then we'll start for 1 minute. Now you'll notice there's foam on the top. Some people say you have to remove it, others say you don't, or add a pat of butter. I don't have an issue either way. I don't think it affects the finalized product. Up to you. Alright, our minute's about up here, and then we'll fill our jars. Okay, I'm going to bring our pot back over here, so that way we can go ahead and get our half-pint jars filled. Now you can test it for the gel stage. If you wanted to, put it like on a glass plate and put it in the freezer. I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and just leave it as is and then get these filled. Again, I'm doing half pints for these. These are just different styles, but they're all half pint jars. So we'll go ahead and get these filled. And you want to fill them to about a little, like maybe a ½ inch. That measurement's part of the canning process for the headspace. So we'll go ahead and get this filled in. And then we're going to process this for 10 minutes. And I'm sorry, it's a 1/4 inch headspace. It's already starting to gel on my funnel. Put a little more in there so we can reach that 1/4 inch headspace. Go. It's very hot, so be very careful. You can see the jar here, and it's a beautiful color. You can essentially turn any flower, edible plant like that into a jelly. You just have to steep it to make the tea first. Dandelion, like I have clover, rose petal, whatever you have. Check our space, we're good. Again, these are very hot, so handle them very carefully. And you may notice my sugar wasn't like white, but I buy the organic sugar, so it's not processed. And that's why it looks like it's a darker color. It won't affect your end product if you use that type of sugar also. We'll go ahead and use these jars. The next one. I have a lot of jars, so I have a mixture of different kinds. And really, whenever you do jellies and jams, if you do them in smaller quantities like this, it's easier to gift them. It's not everybody's going to use like a whole pint or a large quantity of jelly. I know we don't. This looks good. It looks like I might get one more half pint out of what's left. A little check and see. Okay, so I'm going to wipe the lids with some white vinegar. Make sure there's nothing sticky on them, so nothing hinders the seal or canning, or when we can. I'm just making sure that they're clean and that we didn't get any, excuse me, any of the jelly on there. That'll hinder it from sealing. I need to probably double check this one. I did not check. Make sure there is none in here that will hinder the seal. We'll just wipe the ring and the rim. And then when we put these on, we're just going to close it fingertip tight. Just like that. And we'll get our lids on the other ones. Very hot. Fingertip tight. And the reason you want to do that and not crank it on is it can cause more issues actually and cause your lids to buckle. They won't seal proper. So just make sure you just do the fingertip tight. And that's both water bath canning and pressure canning. Hot. And I always double check by unscrewing it and screwing it back to make sure. Alright, so our clover jelly is ready for the canner now. So once we get the grape jelly ready, then I'll just put them all together and can them together at the same time. So I have those added here. And then I have these ready for when I do the grape jelly. So I'll go ahead and get the pan that I'm going to use cleaned out for that, and I'll bring it back. Okay, now we're going to get everything ready in our pot for the grape jelly. I am using this Santa Cruz Organic Concord grape with no added sugars, which is what the recipe calls for. For this, I'm using my the All New Ball Book of Canning. And this recipe is actually on, what page is this? Interestingly, let's say the page. Let's see. This would be page 65. So I'm just doing a basic grape jelly recipe. And so for this recipe, we're going to need 3.5 to 4 cups of grape juice. And this bottle is actually a 32 ounce, but I'm still going to measure it out and make sure, because in canning you want to use exact amounts in regards to any liquids or items like that for your recipe. It smells so good. And that's perfect. That's exactly what we need. Now this doesn't call for any lemon juice in the recipe. Now if you were going to make this from scratch, it does give you how to prepare your own fruit. So if you wanted to get your own grapes and cook them down, boil them, and then strain them, you would strain them like 3 to 4 hours like I did with the clover. I actually put that in hot boiling water for overnight, so over 24 hours for it to steep in the hot water, and then I strained that out. So there's our grape juice that we're going to use for our grape jelly. And we're going to also add our pre-measured pectin, which is 4 tablespoons here. And it says for us to combine the fruit juice and the pectin in the stainless steel or enameled saucepan. And then we're going to bring this to a rolling boil that cannot be stirred down over high heat. And then after that, we will add our sugar and return to a boil again. So we'll go ahead and get our pectin in here, and then we'll get this on the stove to get this heated up to a boil. And I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like over here. Okay, so we have our pot on high here, so we can get this boiling. I'm just giving it a stir to stir in that pectin. And while I'm stirring this one to come up to a boil, I'm also going to go ahead and get our water bath canner ready. Pressure canner, but turned into a water bath canner. So I'll go ahead and get this heating up, because that will need to come to a boil. Make sure my burner's on. There we go. We're going to put that on high heat. And then I'll set the jars in and see how full it is, because we want it to be about 1 to 2 inches above the lids of the jars when we're water bath canning. So we're just stirring in our pectin here into our grape juice to bring it to a boil. And once this actually starts to heat up a little bit, I'll add the clover jelly in. It won't hurt it to be in there while it's heating up. And by the time it comes up to the rolling boil we need for water bath canning, the grape jelly should be ready. So I'll just go ahead and stir this and bring it to a boil, and I'll bring you back. Okay, so we're at a boil now where we're not able to stir it down, so we're going to do our timer for 1 minute on this, and then we're going to add our sugar, bring it back to a boil that we can't stir down again, and then do that for 1 minute, and then it'll be ready to fill our jars. In the meantime, I'm going to put the other jars in here into the heated canner, and then when that's canning or processing, then I will start on the mushrooms for our pressure canning project. So I'll bring you back here in just a second. Okay, so we're ready to add our sugar now. So I'll go ahead and get that added in. We'll get this stirred in, and once we bring this back to a rolling boil, we'll stir again for another minute. And then we'll be ready to fill our jars. Also, again, as a reminder, do be careful. This liquid, if you splash it on your skin, is very hot. It could burn you. So just be cautious and aware of that when you're stirring it. Okay, we are at our rolling boil now. I'm going to set our timer for 1 minute. And we're going to just continuously stir this for that minute, and then we'll be ready to bring our pan or our pot over and fill our jars. I have went ahead and put the clover jelly into the canner as it has heated up. And then we'll get these ready and get them in as well. And the minute goes really quick. Grape jelly just smells so delicious. If you can see it here, that rolling boil. That's what's talking about that you can't stir away. Alright, that's our minute. I'll go ahead and get you back over there, and we'll get the can or the jars filled. So now we're going to go ahead and get our grape jelly into our jars here. And I'm sorry, you can probably hear my freeze dryer running in the background, but I do have some items running in there. I'm doing a few projects the weekend. We'll go ahead, and again, we want to get this filled within a 1/4 inch headspace. Okay, so we have all of our grape jelly filled into our jars, and now what I'm going to do is clean the rims for any stickiness with some vinegar. It's just white vinegar on a paper towel. We just want to make sure there's nothing. Okay, so we finished filling the jelly and the jars of the jelly, and now I'm about to remove them from the canner. In the meantime, I do have all of my mushrooms soaking. So I have baby Bella here, and I have some white mushrooms here. They're all just soaking in some water for about 10 minutes. And once those are done soaking, then I will go ahead and slice them up to process them, so that way I can get them boiling, because we're going to do a hot pack method for our pressure canner project, and then can up the mushrooms so we have them on the shelf ready to go. This is just helping clean them. But in the meantime, now I'm going to go ahead and pull the jars of jelly out of the canner. And I don't know if earlier I explained or not the difference between a jelly and a jam. But a jelly just uses the juices of fruits or whatever it is you're using, like in this instance the clover. It just uses the juice to make the jelly. And a jam uses the entire fruit. So that's the difference between a jelly and a jam. So I'll go ahead and get those pulled out. And they did process for 10 minutes in our canner. Jelly. And it's important when you're water bath canning that you do cover your jars 1 to 2 inches over the jar or over the lid. And that is all of our grape jelly all done here. Now I'm going to pull out our clover jelly. It looks really beautiful. You can see it. It looks so pretty. And I'm putting them on this, same thing I had them on whenever I filled them, because again, we don't want thermal shock. So you have to make sure you adjust everything. And you'll let these sit for about 12 to 24 hours to make sure that your lids seal on your jars. And this is our last one we're pulling out. And you might even hear some of them pop, because the 4-jar lids do not typically pop when they seal, but the other ones that are the off brands or the ones that came with the jars do. Now, I was just going to show you this one. This is the extra jelly that I had put in the smaller jar here. And you can see that it's gelled up. It's set really well. And that's what you want. So that's got a really good set on it, a real good gel. And this one will just go in the refrigerator, and we'll eat this now. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and slide these up. Let them cool, and then I will get started on the mushrooms. Okay, so what I'm doing now that I've cleaned up my mushrooms is I'm trimming the ends, and then I'm quartering them, because you just quarter them whenever you can them. And I'm just putting them directly in this pot. I have another one as well, because I'm pretty sure I'll need 2, because you want to hot pack them. And so to hot pack them, we're going to boil them in water once I get them trimmed up and quartered. I think I have a total of 7 pounds of mushrooms between the Bellas and the white mushrooms. So we'll see how many jars of mushrooms we get for those. I'm going to can them in pints, because that seems to be a good amount that we use in recipes. Now it says you just trim. When I say it says, I am using this ball canning book. Now this one is the complete book of home preserving. So I have both of these ball canning books on page 390, cultivated mushrooms. But it calls for you to quarter the mushrooms, and then it calls for you to you'll soak them for the 10 minutes. After you do that, rinse them again to clean them. And then you quarter them, unless they're small, then you leave them whole. And then you boil them for 10 minutes before you pack them into your jars for a hot pack. Which essentially what the hot pack does is it boils them down to the size they're going to be. So when you pack them in your jars, it's more true to the space needed for the amount of mushrooms. Whereas if you didn't parboil them or do it that way, and you just raw pack them and then can them, they're going to shrink down a lot more. So this will give you more of an accurate idea on the amount for the jar. So I have this many to process. So I'll go ahead and get these sliced up and then I'll bring you back. So here is our pot of mushrooms. They're pretty full. And I'm going to cover this in some filtered water. And then I have another pot that I'm filling with water over here that I'm going to boil just the water for the purpose of hot packing these. So we'll get these all covered. That's a lot of mushrooms, I know. I think this is a 12-quart pot that's full. So we'll have a lot of nice canned mushrooms available. So I'll go ahead and get these filled with water and then I'll bring it back when we get them on the stove. Okay, the mushrooms, as you can see, are at max. They're floating up out of the water. But we're going to bring this to a boil and boil these for 10 minutes. Grabbing our lid, see if we can get it down some. So that's at max. And then, like I said, I have this water over here in this other pot boiling for when we fill our jars. So I'll bring you back when we're ready to fill the jars. Okay. So our mushrooms have boiled now, and our jars are heated up. And we have our boiling water here, so we can get them packed in our jars. And I do have the pressure canner actually heating up now, because we want hot liquid in jars to go into a hot canner. Because again, we don't want the thermal shock. So I'll get this heating up. This has about I cannot believe it says 3/4 of water. It has a line that I fill it to. And then I put about 2 tablespoons of vinegar in it. So that way I don't get all the white residue and everything on the outside of my jars. And we're going to fill these up, and then with the hot water to about 1 inch headspace. And then we'll get them in our heated canner when they are ready. Now this is a pressure canning recipe, so you do have to have a pressure canner for this. And this broth or liquid from the mushrooms is essentially mushroom broth. You can can that up. I've done it multiple times. If you're wondering like what kind of application I use it for, actually I like to use it when I make my homemade cream of mushroom soup. It does really well in it. Then it's also really tasty in beef recipes. You can see the mushrooms have cooked down. And this is why you parboil them, so that way when you fill the jar, it's more true to how much is actually going to be in the jar instead of it cooking down. I mean, you can probably find a recipe where you can raw pack them. I've just never done that way. I've always parboiled them per the instructions in my book, but you can see how full they are. That 1 inch headspace. And once I get them filled, then I will add the liquid to them. Then we'll use our debubbler tool and make sure we have the right headspace and that we remove any bubbles and get our liquid where we need to have it, so we can get these canning. I mean, you may be intimidated by pressure canning, but it's really simple. So don't let it intimidate you. They make the canners nowadays, I think, a little safer, where there's all these mechanisms in place just in case. Make sure no one gets hurt. You know, pieces that'll come out or pop off instead of the canner exploding. I see a lot more incidences that are actual people error from something that someone's done in their canning process instead of following instructions. you know, like thermal shock. So it's really important that you're aware of that. Like my jars, for example, I heated them before I was ready to fill them, so that way when I put hot items in there and hot liquid in there, there won't be thermal shock, and then they'll go into the hot canner that I have heating up right now. You can see me tapping that down, make sure that everything's full. And I'll be glad to have some more mushrooms on the shelf. I like having mushrooms readily available and on my shelf. And I don't know if you purchased any mushrooms at the store, if you purchased maybe organic mushrooms or anything like that, but they're quite expensive to purchase the canned mushrooms. So this is a lot of money. This is definitely money saving, being able to can your own. So if you can do it, I would strongly recommend it. And this is a lot of liquid from the mushrooms. I might get one more jar. We'll see. I did clean 10. So we'll see how many we get filled up. Maybe 2. Even better. And these are great to pull off the shelf and just throw on a pizza if you want mushroom, or use in stroganoff. It's really good for that. It's good in that recipe. So they're really versatile, very easy to use, very convenient. I love having them on the shelf. I can't say enough about it. I really do. This looks like we're about at our fill. Let's tap it down a little bit. I can get maybe a little more in there. Again, using that 1-inch headspace. The headspace when you're canning is important. So you want to follow the guidance on the headspace. Make sure you have that where it needs to be. I mean, there's rubble canning too. I've done some recipes that are more considered rubble canning, but it's your kitchen, your rules. You want to stay safe. You can always look at the National Food Preservation website to see if you know, there's anything that might interest you there. They do have general recipes that you can look at on there also for canning. Most of their recipes, I believe all of their recipes actually are tested. And they test to make sure they come up to a high enough temperature in their pressure canning, or how much lemon juice they need to be able to be water bath canned. And the entire point of the whole situation and doing all that is to make sure that your product is up to a high enough temperature to kill botulism. So that's the main goal or item to make sure. And this is our boiling water that we're adding in now, that we boiled ahead of time for this recipe. And we might need to add more after we fill these, and we use our debubbler tool. So we'll make sure, again, we have that 1-inch headspace. And these are a mix of baby bella mushrooms and white mushrooms. With the baby bella I got at Aldi, they had a really good sale on their 8-ounce packs, and then the white ones I got at Costco when I was there the other day. So I always look for them when they are on sale or there's a good deal on them. I will stock up on them like this. And this is my main goal, is to can them, get them on the shelf. But sometimes I'll freeze dry them, which I do have some freeze dried. I also have some dehydrated. And then I also make my own cream of mushroom soup, which freezes really well. So I have several containers of that in my freezer also. They actually smell really good. I do like the smell of mushrooms. And when we put our lids on and our rings on, again, we're going to do fingertip tight. So we're going to check now our headspace and debubble. So again, this is our debubble tool, and also helps us check our headspace. So we're just going to make sure that we're not above that 1 inch line. And that looks good. We also want to make sure that we're up to the 1 inch line, so if we need more liquid, we can add it to make sure we're where we need to be. And like I said, some of them may not be where they need to be, and I need to add more liquid, which is fine. And that's why it's important to check and make sure. Now, you may have a funnel that has the headspace on it. I do not, so that's why it's a 2-step process for me. That one might be a little full. I'm going to grab a spoon here. Take the mushroom out, and we'll see how that adds up. A little bit of our liquid out. A little bit more. And that looks good. And these will cook down even more when they're pressure panned, mushrooms, which is normal. That's fine. A less mushroom. Take some of the liquid out of here. It's a little much. I don't add seasoning, salt, or anything to them. You can if you want. I just don't. I leave it to season when I cook. I do the same with any broth I make also. I don't salt it. I leave it as is, and then that way I can season it to taste when I cook it. Now, I didn't debubble like you see me doing here with the jams. That's more done whenever you have like solids in there that can have bubbles. That's when you want to debubble. So now what I'm going to do is just wipe my rims. I'm not going to put any vinegar on it because it's just water. I'm okay with that. I don't think that'll cause an issue or hinder a seal. And this also, again, helps you check to make sure there's no cracks or anything stuck to the glass to ensure a good seal. Like earlier I had with the grape jam, or jelly, excuse me, that did have an issue. So now I have my rings and my lids here that I already washed and prepared, and I will get them on my jars so we can get them in our container. And these are my 4-jar lids. I have wide mouth also, but whenever I'm using new jars, I'm going to use the ones that they came with. I'm not going to waste those. It looks like I need 3 more. But I did have more jelly jars than I anticipated, so not a big deal. So just grab 3 more out of here. Washed off. I like to rinse them out, make sure there's no dust, anything like that, anything from the manufacturing, and I just rinse it really well. You want to do whatever you can to make sure you get a good seal. There we go. Now we'll put our rings on, fingertip tight. Perfect. Alright, so we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 jars. We'll get these in our canner, or it should be heated up now, and that way we can get them processed. Okay, so our canner is heated pretty good. The water's pretty hot, so I'm going to get the jars in there. And they're hot to touch, so I'm going to use the lift to get them in the canner. Now when you're pressure canning, can see they look just beautiful going in. When you're pressure canning, you don't fill the jars over the top like you do when you're water bath canning. So again, like I said, it's really dependent upon what canner you have on how much water you need to put in your canner. Mine has lines built in that I fill to that point, which would be about 2 or 3 quarts of water. And then again, I would suggest putting in the vinegar. So that way it will alleviate the residue on the outside of your jars. And these are going to pressure can for 45 minutes. According to the ball recipe that I'm following. And we should be able to get all of the 9 jars in this one level. If not, you can stack pints. In this pressure canner, I can stack pints, but I should be able to fit them all in this one. Without having to. Alright, that's perfect. Okay, so we have our jars in there for the pressure canning process. Now I'll show you what they look like. You can see I can get 9 pints in there. 10 pints I think is the most. Alright. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and add our lid. Now I did put this piece back in that I had taken out for water bath canning the jelly. And you also want to make sure that there's no blockage in here and that your ring is in good shape when you add that to your canner. Then I'm going to put the lid on. I have arrows that line up for that. Well, there we go. Now we have that on. I'm going to bring this to full high. Once this starts venting, we're going to set a timer for 10 minutes to let it vent. And then we're going to add this on here to build our pressure gauge up to where we want to reach to actually process. So in my canner, in my elevation, I'm going to bring that up to at least 11 to pressure can. So I'll bring you back once we have this steaming, and then I'll show you that process. Okay, so if you see here, you can see the steam coming up now. So now that that's steaming, I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes. And we're going to let that steam for 10 minutes. And I'll bring you back when it's ready for the next step. Okay, we vented that for 10 minutes now. Now we're going to add the gauge on there. Like so. This is already, you can see, under pressure because this came up and popped up. So now we're going to wait for our gauge to get to our right pressure. So that way we can start our timer for our 45 minutes for canning the mushrooms. I'll bring you back once we get this up to pressure. And I can show you that. And we'll set our timer for the canning. So now you can see where our gauge is right here. So we're up to pressure where we want to be. Now we're going to set our timer for 45 minutes. And once that's done for the 45 minutes, then we'll let it calm down and we'll wait for this to drop when the pressures come down as well. And I'll bring it back. Okay, so we can see here that the pins dropped here now, so there's no more pressure in the can. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this off the top here, and I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes to let this finish to cool down. Then we'll just crack the lid open, but we won't pull the jars out yet because we want to make sure that we don't have any thermoshock from opening and exposing the jars inside to the outside cool air. So I'll bring you back when we're ready to go to the next step. Okay, so my timer's gone off now for the 10 minutes that I had this sitting, so we'll open this and lift. Whew. See the steam coming out. You want to make sure you lift away from yourself. I'm going to go ahead and pull the top off. Looks like we may have had some siphoning. I haven't had siphoning in a long time. Alright. Pretty hot. They're still boiling. So I'm going to give it a few more minutes, maybe 5-10 more minutes. Then I'll pull the jars out and show you how they look. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull our jars out now so you can see our mushrooms. Pressure pan. And this is what they look like coming out. You can see that. Maybe not enough light. This is what they look like coming out. And you can see how they've even more cooked down. It'll be really nice though having these on the shelf. So these are our jellies that we can. We have the grape. Looks like it's set up nicely. And then this is our clover jelly. You can see it's set up really well. And that's what we want. But we'll finish letting them sit here until we're ready to clean them up and put them away because they have to sit 12 to 24 hours. And here are our canned mushrooms. You can see them a little better that way. So we have those out now. I mean, once you do water bath canning, pressure canning, it really just, it's simple to do both. I actually started pressure canning before I ever water bath canned, so I would highly recommend giving it a chance. So I just wanted to say thank you all again for joining me today while we did this canning projects and got these done. And I hope that you'll consider trying to do some canning on your own. Don't be afraid. It's really quite simple. Yeah, if you have any questions, just hit me a comment, or I'd be happy to assist, help in any way. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Thank y'all. Have a fantastic day.